Buongiorno, good morning or good afternoon. Very pleased to be here today with the Dante Alighieri Society online. We are launching a series of interviews in order to promote and foster the dialogue between the Italian culture and, of course, many of its representatives and fans all over the world. And the Dante Society in Berlin is an association that was born originally before the war and then re-established in the 50s, part of a network of over 200 committees worldwide, with, of course, our central Società Dante Alighieri in Rome, in Palazzo Firenze. I'm Luigi Mercuri, president of the Dante, and very much interested in hearing about today's discussion. Davide, who's now supporting us as our official intern, Davide Sirna, will be able to share with you a bit more in detail what the purpose of this interview is all about. So, Davide, would you be so kind to present our esteemed guest, very special guest today, and share a few words about today's interview? Thank you very much.
Buongiorno. Hello, everyone. So today we have the pleasure to be with Mr. Karl-Erik Norman. Mr. Norman is a former diplomat from Sweden, and he has served in many countries. Among them, we can name Russia, China, and Italy. He's also a great fan of opera music, and he's a professor at the Academy for Cultural Diplomacy in Berlin, where he lectures in national branding and cultural diplomacy. Ms. Norman, would you say a few words about your background, both in as a diplomat and in culture in general?
You mentioned part of it. I was for quite some time a Swedish diplomat. I became ambassador around 1990, and the last part of my diplomatic service was mainly on promotion, and we will come to that subject on promotion of Sweden from a cultural and general point of view. These contacts also led me to found and start an interesting network called the European Cultural Parliament, which has members from 43 European countries. So it's not only the European Union, but also members of the Council of Europe. That is something which we are doing every year, a big session. We have been in 18 different European cities so far, and we also organize workshops and seminars, although it's a little bit of a standstill right now in the Corona crisis. And then I have the pleasure of lecturing at the Academy for Cultural Diplomacy in Berlin. I am writing quite a few books every now and then, and I had a short career as an opera singer as well.
It is quite a background, I have to say. So I'll start straight away with the questions. The first one is quite general. So what is nation branding?
Well, nation branding is part, you could say, of cultural diplomacy. You will notice that the cultural diplomacy has become more and more à la mode in the last 10 or 15 years. One part of cultural diplomacy is usually called public diplomacy. And public diplomacy means the cultivation of opinions, trying to build up a trust and respect and influence in the hearts of foreign people, not only the governments or institutions, but in a broader sense, the populations of other nations. And nation branding is a type of public diplomacy. You could say nation branding is image management. It's management of the image of the nation or the identity of the nation. It became, I was dealing with the predecessors of nation branding for many years and in various functions and capacities. We used to call it simply information. You could say information about Italy, information about Sweden, information at Peru, or whatever. And later on, from the 80s on, you started calling this promotion of a country. And with the let's say, with the strength of market liberalism in the 80s and 90s, you started using more and more commercial language. And so nation branding is, of course, a version of commercial language. It was introduced in the public debate and discourse by my friend Simon Anholt in London in 1998. And since then, most people who are dealing with promotion of their countries in various fields, in cultural field, in trade, or even in politics, they call it branding, accepting the kind of communication technique and communication language that the private sector has been doing for a long time. We are rather careful to say that nation branding alone cannot make things better for a country, because there are no shortcuts to a good nation brand or a good nation image. What you are branding has to be good in itself. But if you have attractive culture, products, services, education level, politics, people, innovations, infrastructure, economy, events, etc., then the prospects are very good for you to have a good nation brand and a successful nation branding. There are rather few examples, but of course you find some examples, let's say more from Europe perspective, more remote countries, which have all these good qualities but are not well known for them. So they have a challenge of branding what is already existing, but it has to be based, generally speaking, on a very good reality. So this is in short what nation branding is, but we could say, I could add, of course, that we usually apply some criteria which are particularly important in nation branding. The nation branding is there in order to promote tourism, to promote export, to promote investment, direct investment in your country, also to promote immigration of talents to your country. And then, of course, to the attraction of your country belongs very much a strong culture, a strong cultural heritage. The governance, how good is politics and governance and institutions functioning, both domestic and foreign policy, and of course the people and the possibility of communicating with the people. So these are some of the criteria for nation branding, but I could go on, but I think we don't have time for that.
No, but still great. That's a great first point. So now getting to Italy, what is the value of Italy's national branding? What are its main strengths, and maybe what are the points that might improve in the future?
Well, some people may be surprised because I know Italians in international connections are often very modest. But I can tell you that according to the Nation Branding Index, which was published in 2020 by the Arnold Foundation, Italy is number 6 in the world. And that is according to these criteria which I mentioned: tourism, exportation, investment, cultural heritage, people. The first on this list is Germany, the second is United Kingdom, Canada is third, Japan is fourth, France is fifth, and Italy is number 6. So it's a very good position. You may say that perhaps there are certain weaknesses as far as politics and economy are concerned. Italy seldom had a very good reputation in terms of politics. oft a change of governments, etc. And we don't have to go too far back in history to say that there are certain, let's say, dark periods in Italian history. But and as far as economy is concerned, we know that there are big problems now. But the strength is, of course, that Italy is really a world, almost a world champion of soft power. And I mean then, of course, the ancient culture, but I also mean it's a tourism paradise, of course, and it is it's one of the world champions in food, in wine, in coffee, in fashion, design, football, Serie A. It is a strong European protector. After all, the Rome Treaty is the foundation of the European Union. And of course, very respected country in technology, including Fiat and Ferrari, from Fiat to Ferrari, so to say, and many, many other aspects. These are strengths, plus, of course, the enormous image of cities like Roma, Firenze, Venezia, Palermo, etc. These strengths are fantastic assets when you wish to do active nation branding or promotion of Italy. The weaknesses, if you wish to have them as well, they are perhaps rather, as I mentioned, on politics, economy is still on environment, but I think we come to this later. There might be changes there. And and this is not Italy's fault, you have a problem with being the country next to the big flow of refugees from Africa, which has been a problematic situation for any type of Italian government, and where, of course, the, let's say, European solidarity has been lacking to a large extent. But these are weaknesses which certainly, or threats which can be overcome.
Right. So the third question brings us to government. Now we have a new government in Italy, the government led by Mr. Mario Draghi. What do you think are the future perspectives of Italy's nation branding now that a new government has been formed? And how can Mr. Draghi's green ambitions change Italy's international image? And how can Italy develop its own green identity, so to say?
Yeah, I think that everybody is very fascinated by the idea that Mr. Draghi is now the Prime Minister of Italy. He enjoys an enormous respect, not only in Europe, but in the whole world. So there are lots of expectations on him now. And you kindly gave me the YouTube of his speech, and it's a very impressive speech, I would say, that he did the other day in the Parliament. And I think there are big hopes for Italy, both to somehow come to grip with the economic difficulties, the balances, and so on, and also to strengthen again the European dimension of Italian politics. I know that there have been voices in Italian politics saying that euro is not good for Italy. We should rather leave the euro area and so on. But here we have, of course, now a prime minister who will be a very strong defender of Italy's belonging to the euro and its solidarity with Europe. But he will also expect solidarity, as I mentioned, from other European countries. So it's an interesting start from that point of view. As far as the green aspect is concerned, I think also Mr. Draghi's position makes it possible for Italy to be a more active member in the rather active European ambition to become a champion in the world climate efforts to avoid a disastrous development of our climate. So the statement by Mr. Draghi to make Italy more green is very hopeful. I think Italy has also some very good starts. I mentioned one. I've come to think of one aspect, and that is in the field of food. After all, slow food movement was an Italian invention, and it's a strong Italian movement, and it's based on raw materials, locally produced, etc. And this tradition, which you find all over Italy, is a very good start to an ecological and a green thinking. So Italy has good possibilities when politics and local politics are also mobilized. I think that Italy can be a strong partner in the European efforts for a better climate.
Last question is about the Italian language, la lingua italiana. So how do you think the Italian language can be an asset maybe for Italy's national branding, and how could it be leveraged to improve national branding of this country?
Through music. I think, well, first of all, of course, the Italian language has a very strong standing internationally. Sometimes you Italians are not aware what a strong standing you have, but after all, it is based on Latin, and the whole Europe was speaking Latin until not so many 100 years ago, and scientists wrote their papers and books in Latin. So the Italian language has been very important in the world for the, let's say, for our culture. After all, it's the cradle of civilization is in Rome, and that is also the basic for our legal system, the Roman law. And the language has been there all the time. As you know, I have been, and my wife is a famous opera singer. Italy was the cradle of opera, 1607, and is still very important. My wish would be, of course, because I see a tendency that various governments in Italy in the last few years have not been so strong in promoting this particular aspect of Italy. But I think both opera, other music, and also modern music has an enormous goodwill around the world and is a way of promoting the Italian language. I think, to take a modern example, if Italy is taking part in the Eurovision Song Festival, they should sing in Italian, not in English, like all the others are doing. They should sing in Italian because people love to hear. Italian is the song language with many open vowels and so on. So it is therefore a perfect language for singing, and that should be promoted. I think that all the institutes around the world, both Dante Alighieri and the Istituto Italiano, certainly have a big task in promoting it. And you will always find young people who want to learn this beautiful language.
Okay. Well, Mr. Norman, thank you. Thank you so much for this beautiful interview. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Professor Norman, I would like also to join the gratitude that David just expressed. It has been an absolute honor, and also interesting to listen about your story and also your knowledge about national branding. Just a few words. I used to work for the Italian Trade and Investment Agency, so yeah. I'm very much aware of how Italy is definitely often has an inferiority complex and is able to actually pull resources together when it comes to its international trade, investment, and tourism promotion, which are fantastic when working together. And concerning this point, let me also say that it's also interesting how Italy, in a way, is also sometimes engaged in certain stereotypes which are positive, but also limit its image. For example, you mentioned, of course, the music, the food, the fashion. At the same time, Italy is the second manufacturing country in Europe. You mentioned, of course, the technological aspect, but in my opinion, it is a bit understated still compared to these other elements, which are, so to say, more B2C rather than B2B, and therefore definitely have more visibility. On the other hand, the language, of course, I completely agree with you. And this is also the reason why the Dante Alighieri Society exists, is actually to promote the Italian culture, history, and its people through language. So thank you for mentioning that. We'll try to contribute to the national branding of Italy further in the future, as we've done in the past centuries, but projected towards modernity and therefore through webinars. Thank you very much for your time, availability, and would be most delighted to welcome you in person in Berlin when we'll reach a situation of new normality.
Thank you very much. I look forward to that, to meet your personality and to continue this, this interesting dialogue.